Very special guest joining us today. She is, of course, the former Seattle City Council member and founder of Workers Strike Back. And as of yesterday, she is a candidate for Washington's 9th District running against incumbent Democrat Congressman Adam Smith. You all know Kshama Sawant. Welcome, Kshama, back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Like I said, you launched your campaign for U.S. Congress yesterday. Very exciting day. The Seattle Times, I'm sure they were great to. I'm sure they felt great to hear from you again. You're not a thorn in the side of the the establishment of the media there in Seattle at all. Seattle Socialist Kshama Sawant to run for Congress against Adam Smith. We streamed your press conference, so here is a short clip from that, you making it official.
Is urgently needed nationally, including in the U.S. Congress. Progressive Democrats like AOC and Bernie Sanders have long since capitulated to the corporate and warmongering agenda of their party. Working people need elected representatives willing to use their positions to build mass movements in order to end the genocide and all U.S. military funding to the Israeli state, defeat the attacks on public funds for our basic needs, and win offensive demands like free healthcare for all, like by taxing the rich, or Medicare for all, and a $25 an hour minimum wage. This is why I launched Workers Strike Back. This is also why I am running for Congress against Democrat Adam Smith. Just as I used my city council election campaigns to build momentum for the $15 minimum wage and the Amazon tax, I will use my congressional election campaign to help build the anti-war movement and to launch a historic fight for Medicare for all. And just as I did in my decade as a representative of working people in Seattle, if I'm elected to Congress, I will accept only the average worker's wage and donate the rest of my six-figure salary to workers and social justice movements.
All right, so there you are, making your campaign announcement official. Now, spoilers, everybody. We kind of did know of this in advance because we know you guys had been talking about this for a bit. And you are not only launching a campaign for Congress, but you're doing something that I think is a really great idea, which is launching this candidacy alongside a sort of ballot initiative, Medicare for All campaign in Seattle. So the microphone is yours. You can explain your campaign, that dual-pronged strategy, in whatever order you'd like.
Yes, we've seen the context in which we are living, where on the one hand there is enormous historic levels of anger among tens of millions of American working people about the state of the society they live in, the anger against genocide, anger at the cost of living crisis, anger at the fact that the rich are getting richer and working people's lives are getting worse by the day. And yet at the same time that there is so much anger, you have a situation where Democrats and Republicans control all the levers of power in Washington, D.C., and they serve the interests of the billionaires. And we know that both are warmongering parties down to their bones. And so it's a situation of impasse where you have outright corporate politicians, many of them just overtly right-wing, and then you have a section of Democrats who call themselves progressives, but then they end up giving cover to the real agenda of the Democratic Party, which is pro-Wall Street, pro-war. And so in a sense, they actually serve a purpose for the billionaire class. And my decade as a socialist on the Seattle City Council is a complete contrast to this. As I said in my speech yesterday, we completely flipped the script on what it means to be an elected representative. So if you're serving working class people, you don't go there, you don't go into the halls of office, whether it's City Hall or US Congress, thinking that you are going to go there to administer the capitalist state, except you'll be a little bit nicer, you'll have better intentions, and then you'll do behind the scenes negotiations with other politicians, especially the biggest power broker politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all these people. And then you'll have meetings with lobbyists for big business, the US Chamber of Commerce, but then you'll try to eke out some crumbs here and there. But the overall agenda, the massive agenda of attacks on working people, of wars abroad, that goes on unabated. we completely rejected this idea. And in fact, I recognized when I first got elected in 2013 that I am taking this office in service of working people, which means for me it meant going to war on behalf of working people against the attacks by the Democratic Party, and also against the strenuous opposition that we would encounter from the Democrats, from, in the case of Seattle, the Seattle Chamber of Commerce. And despite taking that hard route, we won again and again. And in fact, I would say that tragically for the working class, this is the only example of actual historic victories that have provoked, once we have won them, attacks from the ruling class to try and dismantle them. They haven't succeeded yet. And that's also an important story we should cover today, because we've just won a recent victory. In any case, when I ran the campaign in city council for city council in 2013, we campaigned on $15 an hour. In other words, as the Seattle Times itself was forced to admit, I mean, they're not our fans, as you were indicating. The Seattle Times editorial board absolutely hates anything and everything I stand for, but they were forced to admit that my campaign in 2013 was, if anything, a referendum on $15 an hour. We defeated at that time a 16-year incumbent, the most powerful Democrat, arguably at that time. He was the president of the council, and nobody thought we could do this. And nobody thought we could win 15. It was dismissed as utopian. And yet we won that. And unlike the Squad and other progressives, I've kept my promises. We also won the Amazon tax to fund affordable housing, which raises hundreds of millions of dollars annually. And we showed that it is possible to defeat Amazon even on their home turf. We won a slew of renters' rights victories. And this whole program of victories that we won in Seattle, these are humongous victories that have sent the Wall Street interests, Jeff Bezos himself, other billionaires, the corporate landlords, it has sent them all into an uproar. And every next campaign that I had, they spent more and more money to try and defeat us, but they completely failed. We won 4 elections. One of them was winning against a recall that was attempted against us to throw me out of office, but they completely failed. And so all of this strategy, it's unfortunately missing basically anywhere else in the United States. And that's a big reason why we have launched this platform, because we think that we need this type of unambiguous fight back for working class people against the genocide in the US Congress. And I just so happen to live in the district of Congressmember Adam Smith, who is a general among the war hawks. He has not met a war that he didn't like. He has blood all over his hands. He has been in Congress since 1997. He has voted for wars in Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen, and the current bloody inter-imperialist proxy war in Ukraine. He has called left-wing activists, anti-genocide activists, extremists, and left-wing fascists. He has called for them to be arrested. He has likened their actions to the far-right attack on the US Capitol. And he is a treasure as far as weapons industry and Wall Street interests are concerned. And, and the health insurance industry is notable among his contributors. And so I think that if we are to really fight against the genocide, fight to end the genocide, we need this type of campaign to thoroughly expose somebody like Adam Smith. Adam Smith is a darling of AIPAC and the Zionist lobby, the weapons industry. As I said, AIPAC was his biggest funder last year, and he has received nearly $500,000 from the Zionist lobby to date. And also another notable thing is that he has received already for his campaign next year, he has received the maximum amount from Alexander Karp, who is the CEO of Palantir. It's just one of the most dystopian individuals, I think, in existence.
Yeah, people forget Alex Karp is a Democrat historically. People, he's the pro-Trump oligarch. No, not really. He was a Democrat. These tech people, they just go where the power is. They are completely malleable. They have no ideology, no humanity whatsoever. So yeah, that is a formidable opponent there. It's funny because a lot of people, when because people think you're from Seattle, they think, well, you must be running against Pramila Jayapal, but you're actually running against one of the most conservative House Democrats.
Oh yeah. This guy has a long track record. I mean, he voted for the Patriot Act in 2011. I mean, probably a lot of your viewers are very young and they don't even know what the Patriot Act was, but that was one of the starting points of this massive attacks on not only the civil rights of ordinary people, but just sort of wholesale detentions and attacks on immigrant community members. That was a George W. Bush project. This guy supported it. And then in 2002, he voted for the Iraq War. In 2003, he voted for, in 2008, I believe, he voted for the bailouts of the big banks. And then that was under Bush. And then under Obama, he voted for the continuing of the bailouts of the big banks while ordinary people were being screwed. So this guy has a long track record of being just an arch representative of big business and of the war industry.
Please clap.